Aloha artists, Miss Maggie here. Today we are going to take a dive underwater to hang out in the habitat of the Hawaii green sea turtle. That's right, Honus. We are going to hang out underwater with a Honu, and we are going to look closely at its habitat and then paint its background. And then next week, we will draw the Honu and add it to that background. Okay, let's see what sort of supplies are we going to need for this adventure. You are going to want a small watercolor paper today. You know, that one that's thicker and has the texture. That's going to work great. You will need a pencil, an eraser. A Sharpie is useful, and we are going to do a little bit of oil pastels today and also a little bit of painting. If we are doing watercolor, you will need a brush, you will need a paper towel, and you will need some water. Ooh, that's a bunch of supplies. Okay, go find a small watercolor paper, pencil, eraser, Sharpie, oil pastels, watercolor paint with brush, napkin, and water. So artists, today we are going to use our eyes like scientists and like artists. Scientists look closely to ask questions and try to understand what's happening, and artists look closely to see if they can express what's happening. And so I have some video footage that I took while I was scuba diving, and I met some Honu underwater. And so let's look closely at these Honu's habitat. If this was a painting, this would be their setting. So notice the setting in these videos, and you can also notice the objects, their quantity, size, and color. That might be useful in understanding their habitat and turning it into the setting for your artwork. So join me underwater in the Honu's habitat and flow in the current like these little fish above these incredible coral heads. What else will we see next in this beautiful blue world? Oh my goodness. Look at those fish there. That one's a triggerfish. It is related to a huma huma nuku nuku huapua'a. And then, oh wow, look at that butterfly fish there. Wow, what beautiful creatures live in this habitat. Look at the textures and the coral, and do you see the eel? He's just peeking out. And then this little guy is a cleaner wrasse. He is native to Hawaii. What bright colors! And wow, wait, do you see it? Oh my goodness, swimming there in the blue. Do you see the Honu? Oh my goodness. Look at its habitat. What do you notice as an artist and a scientist that makes its home so special? What details are you going to draw? I wonder where that Honu is going. He seems to be diving down deep. Oh, this one found a spot for a nap. I think I'll let him be. Oh, and his friend too. Wow, what an amazing place. And here's one more. It looks like this Honu is waking up. Seems to be coming up out of his bed here among the coral. Do you see that red algae? Interesting. Usually I think of algae as green, but that algae is red. And that Honu is checking out, seeing what's going on, and heading off into the blue. Wow, what details are you going to draw from the Honu's habitat? Wow, what was your favorite detail that you saw underwater? What details do you feel are important to the Honu having a healthy habitat? Next, we are going to draw a picture of the Honu's habitat. What details are going to be important to drawing this setting? Get your watercolor paper and let's draw. I remember some interesting coral reef shapes. Those used a lot of wiggly lines, and some of them were tall, and some of them were shorter. So I'm going to draw some coral reefs that are up, but then I'm going to do some that are down. What sort of coral reefs are you going to draw? You can even rewind the video and find a spot that you thought was especially interesting. One thing about underwater is that when things are close up, when they're in the foreground or the middle ground, you can see a lot of detail. But if things get farther away, you can't see as much detail. I'm thinking about how I'm going to make this coral reef show that some of it is up close and some of it is far away. I think over here, far away, I'm going to put another coral reef line, but I'm going to make that part very soft when I color. So this part is up close, and so I'm going to put some details on it. I saw some interesting algae on there, so I'm making some stringy bits that were the algae, and Honu liked to eat algae. And I saw some interesting coral growing. Did you know that coral is an animal? It doesn't look like it, but coral is not a plant. And there's fish underwater too, right? Now, let's not just draw any old fish. Let's draw specific fish. Did you see the cleaner wrasse? He is beautiful. I'm going to put him in the foreground so that we can really enjoy seeing him. He's not super large because he's a little fish, but there he is there. And when I do color, I'll add that yellow and purple in. But I'm not coloring yet. I'm still adding more details. What other sorts of things are part of the habitat? Well, I see Vana sometimes. Vana is very spiky. You want to be careful of that if you are diving. Another type of fish that is really nice to have in a Honu habitat are yellow tangs. They are sort of like little bit rounded triangles with a triangle tail. I'm having these be a little bit further away, so they're pretty small there. I'll have them swimming above the reef. Do you know why these fish are important to have in the Honu habitat? They love eating the algae off of the Honu's shell. So I have some of them there, and I think I'm going to do one more thing. I am going to put a Honu in the distance, in the background. We are going to put a big Honu in the foreground next week, but I'm going to put one Honu that's swimming far away over here. I'm going to do its shell, sort of like a teardrop on its side. I'm going to have the head coming out, one fin coming down, one fin coming down there, and I'll have the other ones visible just a little bit there. That one's far away. Now, that Honu is in the background. Next week, the Honu that I put in is going to be big like this, in the foreground. Do you see the difference there? And so I think I'm ready for the next step. I'm going to Sharpie all of my lines that are in the foreground or the middle ground. So I have my cleaner wrasse here, and I've got those coral shapes. Make those coral shapes interesting. Isn't that a fun, wiggly line to do? What other animals might be a part of this healthy coral reef for our Honu? And that line, that's a far away line, so I'm actually not going to Sharpie it. I'll show you why. It's like those parts of the video where the background is just fading into the blue. But I do feel like I need some more stuff in here. I'm going to go back to my pencil. You can look at yours and decide if there's anything else to add too. I'm going to add an octopus. There, I've got his head, a couple tentacles. I'm not going to do all 8 tentacles because he's kind of hiding. You know what else might be fun? An eel. I'm going to have an eel come out over here. Here, I'll have him go like that. He's hiding too, but just poking out a little bit. I'm making these animals small, remember, because they're just part of the habitat for the Honu we are going to make next week. Okay, now I'm going to erase. But think, what lines make sense to erase? That line there, I didn't Sharpie because that's where things go into the distance. But wherever I put a Sharpie, let's erase. Remember, put your hand down and press, pushing away, turn it around, erase where you want to take away the pencil, and leave the other parts. And if you erase something you didn't want to, just draw it back in. Okay, next, oil pastel. Let's look back at that video footage. What colors did you notice in the foreground? Let's think about the coral and the parts that are up close. I see a lot of browns, but also reds and greens and bits of yellow. And also we have some fish that have some beautiful colors to them, right? Like the yellow tang. Oh, I'm going to clean my yellow off and put the yellow on those yellow tang. And on the cleaner wrasse, the front part is yellow and the black part is a blue purple. So I'm going to put a little blue on there and a little purple in there. So he's going to be nice and bright. And for the coral, let's put some details on there, but I'm not going to worry about filling it in all the way. I'm going to do more of those wiggly lines. Ooh, I like that color in the coral for sure. See how I'm adding more wiggly lines there? And if anything's really important, fill it all the way in. But I think these parts here are going to look great like this. In this area, it's going to be darker. So I'm going to do some darker colors where I'm filling it in. Maybe I'll do a little bit of making that part darker, but not all of it because I have that Vana there, and we've got some algae. Not too much algae, because if the algae is out of control, that is not healthy for the reef. And this reef that I visited did have some red algae too, which seemed like there was a lot of it there. I'm not sure if that was good for it. It is a pretty color though. So put some of that in there, some more of the algae, little bit more of the green in there. And I am putting those colors in there. The Vana are black, so I'm just going to let them be black. I will make the eel, make him turquoise. And the octopus, the he'e, I'll make him purple. Octopus can change their colors to stand out or to camouflage in. They are amazing. Okay, do some coral reef down here. Oh, I picked up the same color. Well, maybe that octopus is camouflaging in. See those wiggly lines? They're fun to do. Ooh, yeah, I'm going to keep going with that purple coral there. Yeah. Now, if you want things underwater to look like they're fading into the background, use some blue in coloring them. If you want to have them look like they're standing out, use oranges and reds and yellows, and they will stand out. I'm making the parts that are up close in the foreground look like they're standing out. And then things that are farther away, like this Honu, I'm going to color him softly with a little bit of that blue-green there. And I'm going to color this coral reef that is farther away with some of that too. See how I'm just putting a little bit in there? You can use your oil pastels hard and have it really solid, like I'll do right here. Look how solid and dark that is. Maybe I'll make a couple shadowy spots in the coral. But you can also go very soft with it. So try on this paper doing your oil pastel hard and soft. And I'm not even going to color that part in all the way. You'll see why in our next part. Once you think you have all the oil pastel that you want to make your reef habitat be bright and colorful, then let's get out the paint. So as you notice, I didn't put the blue of the background and of the water in there yet, did I? I was saving that for painting. We are going to do a watercolor wash. Do you remember how that works? It's perfect for painting water because we are going to use lots of water. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to hold it like a pencil. I'm going to make sure it has a nice tip on it, but I'm actually going to use more the side of the brush. And do I have any paint on my brush? I don't. I am going to just paint with water. And I am going to fill my paper with water. I'm going stroke, 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 stroke. I am filling the whole paper, not just part of it. Fill the whole paper with water. What will this do when I add paint to it? We are going to drop that blue in and it is going to flow. Is there still sunlight coming through the top of the water? There is. And so, up here, I might want it to have more water and less paint. And then where it's deeper, I might want it darker. Okay, now I'm going to add some water to my blue. I can test it here and see if it's nice and mixed. And I'm going to drop that in. I'm going to let it flow. Oh, isn't that fun how the coral stands out? Ooh, I might put some other colors in the coral reef part. But let's make this watery background look its best. See how that coral reef there that's in the background is just barely showing up? And then up here, put some of this here. I think I might put a little bit of other colors in the reef, but I am going to put the blue everywhere. Then I'll see, well, where do I want a little bit more? Check those edges. Make sure the edges got water and paint. You don't want to leave parts out just because you forgot to look. Both artists and scientists look closely and work to do their best. And so all that means is look again. See what else it needs. Don't rush. Ooh, I love that. I do want to try a little bit of color in here beyond that. I'm going to put a little bit of orange in my coral reef down here. Ooh, that orange is mixing with the blue. Ooh, I like that. I'm going to put a little bit of purple in this dark area. But see, I'm just putting a little bit in. The parts that are far away, I'm not touching. And I'm going to put a little green where I put the algae so that the Honu has some algae to eat. And maybe a little yellow in spots. A little bit of purple down here. A little bit of orange. Ooh, I like that. And maybe I'll put just a little bit of color in that faraway reef. How did I make it just a little bit? Well, I'm using orange there, but I added water to it before I put it in. So it's only the tiniest touch of orange and just a tiny touch of that on the Honu. Wow, that is so much fun. How is yours coming out? What is your favorite part? Oh, so next week we're going to make our Honu, and it's going to swim right into this happy habitat that you created. Isn't that fantastic? So look at yours one more time. Is there anything else that it needs? Is the paint everywhere? Are some parts of the paint dark and some parts of the paint light? How do we make the paint light again? You add more water. And if you want an area lighter, you can even add more water right now, and then take your napkin, a clean part of the napkin, and go down and up, and that will lighten it a little bit. Okay, here is your reflection question. What details did you add to your artwork that you think are the most important to the Honu's habitat? And why are those details important? I can't wait to see your artwork, and next week we'll draw and color our Honu and add it straight to your artwork. Make sure that you clean up all those art supplies that we use, because we'll be using them again. Wash your brush in the water, dry it off, make sure it has a nice point. Clean up your watercolor paint, toss out your water, and make sure your oil pastels are neat. Even if they're broken, even if they've lost some of their wrappers, make sure they're all good. Put the lid on. Here's my lid. And don't lose this artwork, because we need it next week. I'll see you then. Ahui ho!